Hey guys, so I'm just gonna make a video real quick. The reason why I haven't been posting lately is because I got a job and I've been really busy working, but um, I do want to do these videos for you guys, especially for the few of you that are out there watching this and want to learn, because I was in your shoes not too long ago and I was trying to find a bunch of videos online to learn as much as I can because I liked coding. And the reason why I made a poker game is because I felt there was a lot of problems that you can solve um, with coding. Uh, Poker has a lot of small things that you can, you know, basically problem solving. How do you figure it out? And one of the problems is in poker, there are players that have to be a dealer, a small blind, a big blind, and then after the big blind is the person who's the first person to play or the first person to act in a round, or like they're the first person to set a bet. So let's pretend that these are players. So we have player A, player B, player C, and player D. First things first, player A is going to be a dealer, so I'm going to put like a D right here for dealer. The next person right after player A is going to be the small blind. After that is the big blind. And then after that, player D is going to be, I put a seal. Player D is going to be the first person to bet in a round because he's right after the big blind. So that's just your basic poker. So, so how would we solve this problem? And the thing is, there are a bunch of different ways that you can solve this. So my way of doing it is not the only way. You can find your way. I'm going to show you how I did it. Um, and maybe this will help you, get better at coding. Maybe open your eyes to different ways of doing it. And what we're going to use here is the mod, what's it called? Mod operator. The mod operator. It's a percent sign. But we're going to use the mod operator to help us assign player attributes. And here's one problem that you got to worry about when you're making a poker game and when you're assigning things, because in poker, basically you're supposed to rotate. You're supposed to rotate the attributes after each round. So after the first round, the player B becomes the dealer, player C becomes the small blind, player D becomes the big blind, and player A becomes the first actor, right? But here's one issue. Here's something that can happen in a game. Let's say player B can run out of chips, and he's out of the game. Now you can't simply just rotate assignments. You can't do it easily, I'll say that. You can't easily rotate because now B is out of the game, so you can't give him the dealer assignment. You have to skip him and you have to go to C. And then now he has to go, big blind has to go here. Actually, no, hold on. See, this is another issue. So yeah, dealer goes here, small blind goes here. Yeah, so I guess that was right. And then big blind goes here, and then first actor goes here. Actually, did I do it wrong again? So let's see. Because now he is dealer and small blind, so that is also probably wrong. So let me think. If B is out of the game and it was like this, dealer would go to him, small blind would go to him, big blind would go to him. So now it's dealer, small blind, big blind. Yeah, the way I did it just now is the correct way to do it. And as you can see how confusing it can get when a player drops out of a game. Player B runs out of chips. Now, how are you going to assign attributes? So I'll show you how I use the modulo operator to help us out, and also I use a couple other functions as well. Okay. So I'm kind of doing this video on the fly, so excuse me as I think of what to say next. Okay, so players, I have them in a list, and in Python, you should know what a list is. I'm not going to go over the basic stuff, but hopefully you know the basic stuff. So a player is an object. A player is an object, right? And the player has attributes, or an object has attributes. And these objects are going to be in a list: A, B, C, and D. So in a perfect world, let's say nobody gets out of the game. A, B, and C, and D never run out of chips. And you have the dealer, big blind, small blind, and first actor. And all you do is simply rotate assignments. You just rotate them through the list. D would come over here, B would go over there, small blind would go over here, and F would go, or first actor would go back to the first one. Now, there's a couple of ways you can think about how you can rotate it like that, and that's where Modulo comes in. So, all right, we'll go to the code now. So now that you have a visualization of what's going on the left I have the entire code. It's a big monster. It's 1,400 lines of code. This was kind of before I knew I should have modulated stuff and broken things down into smaller pieces. I kind of was just learning, and I made something big, messy, 1,400 lines of code. By the way, this is available on my GitHub. It's on the link in the description, so if you want to download this code and run it yourself and just see how it works and mess with it and play with it and learn, you can do that. So that's what's on the left side. And on the right side, I kind of copied and pasted a little bit of this section right here, a simpler version of this, just so I can show you what's going on here. And this is a function called establish player attributes, and that's where the assignment of dealer, small blind, big blind, or first actor happens. And here I use the modulo operator to help me, and I also use append and pop to help me, and I'll show you why that's important in a second. So just to keep on track, because this is a big thing of code, in this video I'm talking about using modulo to help assign player attributes. And this can help you not if you're just making a poker game. This can help you if you're making any game, or maybe it can be applied to a lot of different things where you need to rotate things. You need to rotate things in a list, and occasionally that list will change, like objects or things in that list will disappear or be deleted. It'll still help you rotate things around in that list. So on the right, I'm just going to scoot this over here. So this is where you need to pay attention. I made it very simple. So we're going to go through it a little slowly and talk about it from top to bottom. On the top, all I'm doing is making a class called player, and it's an object. And we're using def init. This I'll talk a little bit about. You should know it though if you know a little bit about basic object-oriented programming with Python. Basically, this function, whenever you make an instance of a player out of the class, it will run. this function will run automatic. And whatever you put inside the parentheses of an object function like this will go in here as name. So this runs automatic when I type it out like that. So a class object that is a player with a function that runs automatic, and we're putting a name in there. And that name is being assigned to self.name or player.name. So yeah, if you want to learn more about object-oriented programming, there's a lot of videos out there. I don't want to go too deep into it. I want to stay focused on what I'm trying to show here. So a player object gets a name. So and then there's also a list called list of special attributes. And in here, and I'm not saying this is the best way to do it. Now looking back, this is actually kind of a crappy way to do it, but this is just how I found a way to assign a player as a dealer or the small blind. And I needed a list because there are times when you can be a dealer and a big blind, or you can be a small blind and a first actor, or there's other combinations where you need multiple attributes. And so I just made a list. And okay, so trying to keep it simple. All right, so I made player A, B, C, and D. Hold on. And I made them player Mike, player John, player Bob, and player Will. And I put all these players in a list like this. And then I made a function. Now this function is going to help us assign player attributes. And it takes one argument, and that argument is a list of players that are not out. List of players not out. That means that list cannot have somebody who's out of chips. So later on in my code over here, we do like a check to see if they have chips. If they don't have chips, we take them out of this list. So basically what I'm saying is this function needs to take a list of only players who are not out. All right, so let's say player A, B, C, and D are not out, so they're going to go in here. All right, when this function is called, we will create a variable called address assignment. And the value we will give it is an integer of 0. All right, one thing to remember here is lists have indexes. The first index is 0, then it goes 1, 2, 3. Index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3. All right, so we start address assignment at 0. So if I were to use this address assignment as an index, it will call player A because it is 0. And remember, we want the first player to be the dealer. So first player, index 0, will become the dealer, and this is how we do it. We call the list of players not out, we put the address assignment, which is 0, and we say that player is the dealer. Now the dealer, when we do dealer dot list of special attributes, it is calling this part right here for whoever the dealer is, in this case player A. So dealer dot list of special attributes dot append the string dealer. Now this will grab player A and put dealer inside of his list of special attributes. I hope you get it that far. Now, we're going to do something to the address assignment. We are going to add 1 to it. And when we add 1 to the address assignment, it's moving the index from 0 to index 1. Now, when we do the same thing again, well, we're going to do a little bit something first, but basically, when we do the same thing we did up here by putting the address assignment as an index, it's going to grab player B this time. So that's the rotating that we do through the list. But here's where modulo comes in. Let's say I didn't have modulo. It would add 1 to the index. We would go from A to B. Let's say we did it again. We go from B to C. And let's say we do it again. We go to C to D. Now we are at index 0, 1, 2, and we're at index 3. If I added 1 to 3, we would go to index 4. There is no index 4 on our list of players. So how can we know when we need to restart back to 0? And we have to do it dynamically because we never know the exact length or how many players are at the table. All right, so I'm going to use Paint to try to help you guys out with modulo. And I'm going to use the example of 3. So we'll start with 0. And 3 is going to represent the number of players in our game. So 0 modulo 3 is 0. 1 modulo 3 is 1. 2 modulo 3 is 2. And then 3 modulo 3 is actually 0. So let me make some more room here so you guys can see the pattern that's happening here. Just going to scrunch that up there. All right, now let's continue. We did 0, 1, 2, and 3. We saw the pattern 0, 1, 2, and 0. Let's do the next number, 4. 4 modulo 3. That equals 1. 5 modulo 3 is 2. 6 modulo 3 is 0. All right. So do you see the pattern that's happening here? We went from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the outcome is 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. And so you can see modulo is like modulo and then a number. This number is like a cap on how high the number can go. Modulo gives you the remainder. When you divide a number, there's a remainder. And this remainder is like will not go up to this number. It will restart before it gets to that number. And this is helpful because if you have 3 players and each player has an index of 0, 1, and 2, and you want to rotate between these numbers when you go 0, 1, 2, and then restart back to 0, 1, 2, and then restart back again, modulo does that for you. It gives you 0, then 1, then 2, then restarts back, and it gives you the perfect indexes for rotating in a list. And so that's what I do. I use modulo. Now, the way I wrote it is a little confusing, so I'm going to write it a different way so I don't have to explain what's happening. So the way I wrote it before, like this, is the same exact way of writing it like that. So if you're confused by how I did this, then just look at this, and this is the same exact thing. What I'm saying is, whatever our address assignment is, we need to modulate it by the length of the list of players not out. Basically will give us the number of players. This number of players is capping, it's putting a cap on the address assignment. It's saying, hey, if this address assignment equals our list, restart it back to 0. That's what Modulo does. So if we had 3 players and our address assignment tried to go up to 3, we would say, hey, there's not an index for that. You need to restart. Basically what's happening here. We use Modulo to put a cap on the address assignment, but we keep adding 1 to it. We keep adding 1 and then modulate it. I don't know if that's the correct way to say it, but we use the modulo assignment to restart it back to 0. The same way that we did it here. 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2 for 3 players. If it's 4 players, it would do 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. And that's perfect for the indexes because index start at 0 and then it goes 0, 1, 2, 3. All right. So I hope I explained that clear enough. If you have any questions in the comments, I'll be happy to help you out. So that's basically what I did. I used 0 and assigned a dealer to that. 1 index and assigned small blind. And then added another one to that, making it 2, assigned big blind. And I did that all the way to first actor. And I used these attributes to check later on in my code to see who I need to grab from the list of players to be the dealer, or to be the small blind, or to be the big blind, or to be the first actor. All right, now the last part right here. And I apologize because I'm doing this on the fly, and this is a little bit hard to explain, but I'll try my best. And I'll try to remember why I did this. I know I did this for a reason. Basically, I'm gonna write what's happening right here in this one little line of code. All right, so we have a list of players. A, B, C, and D. Right. All right, we run them through this function here, and we establish attributes, right? Next time that they go through on the next round, if we keep the same order, then player A is always the first index. It's always 0 index. So it's always going to be assigned dealer. So all I did at the end right here, this one line of code, I shifted A, B, and C 1, and then I put D all the way in the back. So I basically made A, B, C, and D, and then I took D out and I put him in front. That's all I did. So it ended up like D, A, B, all right, B, and then C. And I did that using pop. I used pop. Pop does is takes D out, right? pop 0 on a list, in this case would take D out, right? But it would hold it. It will hold D for a second. And then it's like, okay, what do I do with it? You append it. You append D. You pop it and then append it. What does append do? Puts it in the beginning. So pop and then append like this rotates it, puts D in front and then pushes everybody forward. And that way, when you have it like this now, the next time you put it inside of established attribute function, this thing, the next time you put it in this thing, it'll put index 0 as dealer, which is now D. Excuse me. So now we're rotating. This is how you rotate. So let's say during the game, yeah, I'm trying to remember, there was a specific reason. So let's say during the game, right? This is before, so right after establishing player attributes, we rotate like this, right? And then we play the game. We play a round. Let's say during the round, we have D, and then let's say player A is gone because he's out of chips. Now we got B, and then we got C. Now, see, player A is gone, but we've already rotated. And this is important because if you don't rotate like this, it'll mess up the establishing player attributes. You need to rotate so it's functional when you assign the dealer. And then the small blind and then the big blind. It's been a little while since I've made this code, but I hope this video helps. I'm gonna run it real quick. Maybe I'll play a little bit, play along a little bit. Let's see. So basically, I just call the function. I put in the list of players, and then here I'm going to, for each player in the list, I'm gonna print out the name, and then the list of special attributes. So let's run it. Right, so John, small blind, big blind, first actor, and dealer. Now let's play around and let's say player C is no longer in the game. Now players equals how would I do this? Players equals, so it rotated. So the way it is now is D, A, B, C, right? But we're going to delete B. Let's say B is out of the game now. And now we do establish player attributes, and we put players in. And then we print it out again. So ignore this part, that's the first part. This is the second printout. And now we have dealer, small blind, big blind. Oh, you know what? We did not clear the player attributes. So that's another thing that you have to worry about. All right. I'm glad that happened so I can show you. So in my code, later on after each round, I clear the list. I clear list of special attributes. I delete everything in it because you have to start fresh. So for player in players, I do a version of this. I do player dot list of special attributes dot clear, and that'll clear the list. All right. So I'm going to do that, and I'm also going to print just the new line so we know so we have a separation of the first round and the second round. I'm going to run it. All right. And so as you can see, it's clear. Now I need to establish the player attributes after I clear it. There you go. Now let's run it. So now, all right. So now we have the first round here and then the second round here. So it did dealer, and then it did small blind, big blind, and then first actor. The reason why it looks like this is because at the end we rotate it. So normally this would be on top, but we rotated it. But it'll always be like that. We can do it again. We'll clear it, and then, well, let me think. You know what? I have to figure out a different way to do this. Players. Yeah, that's fine. Let's just say there are 2 players left. Players equals CDA, so CA. Now you only got 2 players left. Let's see if it still works. We're going to clear all the player attributes and then run the establish player attributes function, and then we're going to print each player and their attribute and run it. So now it did not do it. Let's see. Oh, it did it but hold on. I'm getting confused with the, I didn't print a new line, so it looks confusing. So we can separate the rounds. Let's run it again. All right, so this is the last round right here. So we have dealer, small blind, big blind, first actor. Do you see how it bounces back and forth between Bob and Mike? It goes dealer, as that's the 0. Then we added 1 to the assignment address, and then it went to Mike for small blind. And then we added 1 again to the assignment address, but the modulo kicked it back down to 0. And then we added 1 again, and it went back up to Mike for dealer, small blind, big blind, first actor. And that's the magic of modulo. It's bouncing it back and forth. No matter how many players you have on that list, the way I set it up on here for using the length of the players in the list, modulo, and then the address assignment, the way I have it here, I didn't say it right, but the way I have it here is kicking it back and forth no matter how many players you have. So I hope that helped. I'm going to edit this video real quick. I didn't prepare much, and it's been a while, and I'm not a YouTuber, so I try my best, and hopefully you guys like it. Thanks again, and I'll see you later.